Transmission is go. Underbase is live.
Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to the Underbase. My name is Adam, 88M, and we're back with Transformers issue 41. The Combiner Wars continues. All chaos is breaking loose on Cybertron, and Mr. Starscream is at the centre of it all. To see what happens next, you join myself and Mr. Turnbull. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good. And Mr. Tricky, how are you, sir?
I'm excellent.
Lovely. Mr. Tricky is standing in for a missing Grufflock. Less facial hair, more relevance, and more reality.
I have some very big, small shoes to fill.
God bless that little pixie.
Gents, are we doing well?
I think so.
Have either of you seen Mad Max?
Not yet. I'm planning on going, because I've my shift work being as it is, I'm off Thursday and Friday, so I'm planning on going along during the day when I can basically get a cinema screen to myself.
Yeah, I am 8:45 on Thursday.
Okay. Only reason I'm saying that is because at the moment it's just the wall is being battered on social media
Yeah.
with go see Mad Max for all the good reasons, plus lots of other socially relevant reasons that you should go and see Mad Max for.
Yeah.
Nicole hates it.
Jeff likes it.
Oh, God.
Therefore, just out of sheer fascination, I have to check this out.
Does he really like it, or is he just saying it to fuck with people? Jeff doesn't like anything.
I think he's gone back for seconds, if not more.
Did Ralph like it? Has Ralph seen it?
Ralph won't see it. He doesn't like the Mad Max films at all.
Okay.
It's just something he never got into. No, because I was badgering about it just to come when the trailer was out and you had Nicholas Hoult looking a bit demented. You're like, all right. Part of me just thinks it would have been nice if everyone's favourite anti-Semite was in the lead. Every time he gets another film role, he kind of, okay, you're good in the film, but then you get an interview and they talk about how you hate the Jews. It's like, no, you're ruining stuff. I mean, I liked you in The Expendables 3. You were one of the highlights of it. Then you go and say awful things and you can't be in Mad Max.
Well, he walked away from Mad Max.
Yeah. I'd imagine probably there would also be, after his last outburst, the studio would have said, well, George, we can make it. We've just got a little suggestion about the casting. Might improve it.
Anyone
Get rid of Mel Gibson. Anyone but Mel. Well, almost anyone but Mel.
Well, they got rid of Mel, and then they got rid of the sort of junior sidekick, and they replaced the junior sidekick with Mad Max, and they replaced the lead with Charlize Theron. That's what I've heard. I've heard just very, very positive things.
Sounds like an upgrade to me.
Exactly. The two most hated words, junior sidekick.
Yeah.
Deaf. No good comes of a junior sidekick.
Oh, sorry, I've just got this image. Rob Snyder, Judge Dredd. I can't get rid of it.
The thing is, the Judge Dredd film is nowhere near as bad as everyone says. Stallone really, really did try and get into the part. The thing is, the studio were always going to get him to remove his helmet.
Okay.
It's of that era. But it's a case of two big problems: Rob Snyder, and the second is that you shouldn't be able to take out an ABC warrior with a set of wire cars. I don't know about you, but if it's like we need robots to fight wars because humans are too fragile. Okay, humans are fragile, so we'll get big bits of metal, but let's leave sensitive conduits and cables exposed so any knobhead with a wire cutter can take them out. Come on.
You mean like the first Transformers movie, where everything was just covered in cables?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing. But admittedly, it's like Space Marines that don't wear helmets.
Yeah, you're just, it's like, oh, I'm going to show off my long service stud. That's not a long service stud, that's another bullet. You've just been shot in the head.
Kids, if you ever go up and make a film, don't make a film like Judge Dredd. I think that's the lesson to be learned. And if you are, don't get Rob Schneider involved.
Yes. Say no to Rob Schneider. No good can come of it. There's only one film he hasn't managed to ruin.
European Gigolo.
No. Demolition Man.
Yes, this is true.
That's the only Rob Schneider film that you can say is actually good.
He is because he is offset by the power of Bullock.
Yes.
Young, eager. Let's move on to the review, shall we?
Yeah, so no quiet moments here. Let's move on. We'll save those for later.
Right.
I could see eyes glazing over that point.
Previously on Combiner Wars, Cybertron, ruled by the scheming Starscream, contacts the first of the lost colonies, with disastrous results. Conflict spills into the streets of Caminus, wrecking the already stricken world. On Cybertron, a shuttle from the starship Lost Light carries a Mirage who's had a strange vision, and his guardians, who are now dubbed the Protector Bots, as do Prowl and his Constructicon allies. They form Devastator and attack, trying to stop Starscream from expanding his rule to new worlds. Devi fights Starscream's combiner Superion and seems unstoppable, until Starscream uses the Enigma of Combination on the Protector Bots to form Defensor. Defensor and Superion team up and bring down Devastator. Hooray! With Menasor already defeated, the score so far is Starscream, 2 combiners, everyone else 0. Gents, what did you think of the last Combiner Wars issue?
It's Prowl kind of. What is it? Prowl or is it Devastator? Has he been completely subsumed by them, or is he still in control? It's fascinating what's going on with that little guy. I really enjoyed the Protector Bots. The idea that you can take sort of 6 guys who work together and make them into one giant guy and it will function is a fascinating idea to me. Because people I work with in my workplace, if he was into a combiner, I'd spend like an hour arguing with my leg. As I say, I'm really enjoying the series. Where we're going next with it, I really don't know. But it's I would also take issue with the scoring on that page because it says Prowl 2, everybody else 0. Shouldn't Swindle have 1 there? That's kind of got 1.
Well, no, it's all for Starscream, really, isn't it?
And I'm giving Swindle credit. I think he put together the I forgot the words now. I want to say Combaticons. I know it's not the Combaticons.
Oh, don't make this
I know.
mistake.
It's in my head.
We're having a flashback to Windblade 1.
I know. It's in my head now. No, I would say he put together the Stunticons.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about Superion quite a lot because he's a naturally occurring combiner. And also how he got completely ripped apart by Devastator in Dark Cybertron.
Yeah.
And how it's very reminiscent of what happened to him when he met Devastator last issue. Because he tries to do the same thing. He tries to rip his arm off, but this time because he's got the Enigma of Combination, he just fires his arm off him.
Because we're seeing as well different types of combiners.
Yeah.
And this Enigma is giving this almost kind of auto restart. Oh, you died or you're injured. Don't worry about that. Click, reset, off you go.
Rattrap's role in all of this is interesting. When Rattrap came into this series as this kind of Starscream wannabe, just this kind of second in command who's just going to kind of hang around and try and learn the tricks of the trade, and then one day it'll all be mine. And suddenly he's changed course. He's looked at it and said, no, Starscream's a false prophet. He's not where the future lies. Prowl's the way that everything lies, even though it's clearly insane. Clearly insane. So what he does next and coming forward is going to be interesting to me because he knows where the bodies are buried.
Is he going to turn fully and reveal everything, or is this just a mini power play?
I don't know. It's the difference between power play and survival, and what is he trying to achieve? I'm not entirely sure.
Interesting.
I'm not sure this one. Yeah.
Mr. Andrew, what do you think?
One of the things that occurred to me is, just to touch on what Trick was saying about how Superion, that's a naturally occurring combiner, which has now been changed somehow with obviously the Enigma combination allowing Alpha Bravo to join in.
Yeah.
But what difference that, again, it's not really said as that Superion obviously asserts, obviously in the earlier issues, that he's a personality in his own right. But where does that come from with the ones that just suddenly get assembled through the Enigma of Combination, which, spoilers ahead, we'll come to later on?
Yeah.
Where's that? Again, from the sort of Marvel era, it was quite clear it was sort of a gestalt entity of all the 5 or the 6 come together to form one, and they weren't particularly effective because they were all those minds pulling in different directions.
Yeah.
But if Superion had a kind of naturally occurred had in its own direction. What's the impact of Alpha and Bravo going in there? It's not really touched on, but it's something. If we're going to have the combiners sort of sticking around for the long haul past this, as opposed to what's kind of been before, really since the Dreamwave era, they come in as big weapons and then fade in the background, then come back. And particularly as events or shows as this issue goes on, that they will have to stick around unless a certain someone gets another body within the space of a few issues, which wouldn't entirely be without precedent, but come on. Starscream, what is his ambition? Again, he's got power at Cybertron, but for what? There's never been an end goal presented.
Yeah.
Other than, I just want to be in charge of Cybertron. Combiner Wars is the first of him sort of... And the thing is, he's never outright stated he wants an empire or a new Cybertron empire at all. Everyone else is projecting that motivation on him. Now, obviously, that's given his Decepticon roots, is probably the way he's going to go. But he's never made it clear at all as to what he... Again, it's probably why Rat Trap was so quite keen to jump ships. Okay, Starscream, you're in charge. What now? I'm going to try and stay in charge. Okay, you're staying in charge. What now? I'm going to keep staying in charge. And it's really, Starscream's been fighting to keep his seat at the table for pretty much since the get-go, that he's had no grand design as to where he's going to go.
But is that not PTSD, though? Because every time he's been in charge, somebody has turned up and taken it from him. Be it Megatron or Shockwave.
He can't adapt. He can't get his head around the fact that Prime does not want to take power. He can't get his head around the fact that Megatron actually wants off and is doing his own thing. And he probably, if you're able to pin down the guy, said, do you believe that Shockwave will still come back from whatever happened to him and take power? And he'll probably say yes. At the moment, he can't deal with ongoing rule. He's generating these situations, he thinks, to solidify his power. But actually, he's the one undermining it. If he just became a bland politician, he could probably rule the planet and no one would ever bother him.
Well, again, we talked about it sort of the last review, is what's ultimately going to undermine him is his own people. Look at the Decepticons are so utterly disenfranchised with him as a people. Any sort of native power base he could potentially have is already gone. There's, again, not a feeling that, again, because you had the Titan and all that the people are kind of going, oh yeah, maybe he did this, he did that, but really, he's achieved nothing. Ultimately, and we touched on that last month as well, that the Transformers for the race don't seem to be able to adapt quickly at all. It's outliers. They are a dead race walking, which kind of ties in with Prowl's motivations in it, which I quite liked. It was purely just a case of, no, I'm just going to go for the space bridge. I'm going to cut it out. If you can't get there, you can't spread. Very much a Cybertron is a gangrenous limb. If I cut it off from the rest of the galaxy, they won't do any harm. We won't do any harm. You get the feeling that Prowl's trajectory is potentially, let's wipe us all out. We all need to go. It's a very nihilistic view, but one based on, bizarrely, a little bit of altruism. It's like, no, I've seen what we do.
Yeah.
We're no good. It's not a case of coming from a position of contempt. He's looked at, no, if we're allowed to spread, bad things happen.
Which is bleeding into the Galactic Council's view from What Meets the Earth.
Yeah, because they're looking at it going, well, when they kept themselves, they were fine, but we don't barter, we don't trade with them. Again, Magnus was the only one that had the dispensation because he was seen as a different and very much I'm above them. It's my badge on enforcing these laws. That's it. That's my concern. I'm beyond the Autobot Decepticon war. Everyone else, fair game. Target. It's an entire race with a target on its back.
Yeah. I have just realised something here.
Go on.
Starscream tried to control a Titan. Can't do that. Now he's trying to control a Gestalt.
Yep.
He ain't going to do that. So is he going to end up with like a Micromaster just living in a cave somewhere?
Probably. Crimzeek will come to his aid.
Maybe he'll get in a fight with Sunstreaker over Bob.
Oh, Bob.
There'll be come to me, come on, Bob. Who's your favourite Transformer?
And at this point, we'll start the review because we've gone as far as we can go with our preamble talk. So, Transformers 41 Combiner Wars 4, You, Me, and the Universe. Written by John Barber, story by Magritte Scott and John Barber, art by Livio Ramondelli, letters by Tom B. Long, or as Gruffy insists I say, Tom B. Long. Editor is Carlos Guzman. We've got a couple of covers, gents. Cover A is Ringmaster Starscream, presenting a big bot bash, art by Casey and colours by Joanna. The subs cover is the second half of Livio's duo cover with Prime staring down at the reader, Devastator and Menacor behind him. And the retailer incentive cover is Hasbro's white version of the Ultra Prime, which has cropped up at a UK toy fair. Nothing is official on this apart from stating it's by Hasbro, so I'm going to hazard a guess and say it's by the team that did the last issue's cover, which is the lines by Marcelo and the colours by the Canadian Vulture team, which included Sarah Petrie de Rocher. So, Andy, which is your favourite cover?
I'm actually going to go with the Pulse exclusive one that you didn't mention, which is the photograph of the toys.
Yeah, now that's the other cover. Pulse exclusive, Wingblade, Superion behind her. And yeah, they've taken the toys and they've just tweaked the colours, haven't they?
Yeah, they're a little bit more heavily saturated. I have no problems with that. Again, we've had a couple of toy-based images over the years. We had kind of the Death of Optimus Prime way back, which, yeah, it's a photo of the classic Prime. It's a lovely toy, but it didn't really work as a cover in its own right. And we've all seen lots of fans have done really nice recreations of covers and seen using the toys in the past.
Yep.
So it can be done well. And this just really works really nicely. Again, they've just put a nice wee background, which I think is probably some of the art from the back of the boxes, by the looks of it.
Yep.
So it looks similar to the guys that have worked with Marcello on the Combiner War stuff, and a little bit of smoke filter in there just to
give it a bit of pop.
Yeah, just to make it look like it's not toys in front of a background. So it's like an actual proper image, but really nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice if maybe on some of the toy packaging as well, they could start utilising more of this. So you still got the actual toy that people are going to pick up. But yeah, just make it look a little bit more glam. Nice. Tricky, what do you think?
Well, I was going to agree with Andy.
You can do. It's not a crime.
You say that, but it probably is technically.
But after staring at it for way too long, I'm annoyed that Windblade has lost her golden throwing crown thing. And I believe her feet are mistransformed because she hasn't got the stiletto heels. They've been folded up. And that annoys me slightly.
Oh, yeah. I don't have the toys here, but yeah, neither of them are actually.
Yeah.
This is the one danger when suddenly utilising figures. If you get a figure wrong, woe betide you.
Yep. So, but I really like that. That's beautiful. I'm kind of fascinated by the Ultra Prime. It's always nice to see Rodimus making an appearance in the other book. You know.
Yep.
Is that Sunstreaker as an arm? Question mark. Probably is.
Yep.
Is that Mirage as a leg? Almost certainly. It's nice. I want to know if there's another half to this because I imagine there is.
I mean, Livio's was a two-parter, so I'm expecting this to probably show up as the other part of the next.
One of my problems with the covers is if you're going to do split covers, just make them wraparounds.
Yeah.
It's just a nice wee wraparound cover every now and then is also just quite nice. Remember, from something that comics would often do every so often, it's just a nice wee treat. Well, there you go, wraparound cover. And then if it was depending on the card slots, I'll buy a second one. I'll staple this one. I've got a nice wee small poster for an additional comic. But I just don't, because again, when you split the image, if it's drawn to be one image, half in two, the composition doesn't work to draw the eye.
No, you kind of eyes drawn towards Devastator's left fist for some reason.
Yeah. This is the thing, isn't it? And also as well, you might have variants with printing. Tones can change. You actually lose a little bit of information in between the pictures
because of the bleed and the runoff. Yeah,
you don't need that. If you want to pick up something, if the artist has gone to the effort, then do it. Or just be really bold one time. If you're desperate to have a nice wide image that won't fit on a cover another way, stick the thing sideways.
Or just do the black bars. Warren Ellis made Cassidy do that for one of the early issues of Planetary. I think it was the Hong Kong Ghost one. I think issue 3. So did the black bars and made it look like a widescreen shot. So the main image is a bit smaller, but you've got everything in shot.
Nice. For myself personally, I love the first cover that Casey did. It's the problem with Casey's covers is that usually they're one of the first things that's revealed about an issue. So by the time it comes out to release, you've seen it until your eyes are bleeding. It is wonderful and it's good. Livio's cover doesn't really work for me. as much as all of the rest of his artwork does in this issue. For me, it's the Ultra Prime one. It just looks very, very dynamic. You know, it's the classic, I'm pointing to something over there. And so it's extremely dramatic. That said, it is a very, very awkward composition. And if there is another half to this, it's actually going to be monumentally dire unless there's not something very, very hefty in the middle of that frame. Because you're going to get a third of Ultra Prime just sort of in shot.
I think he might have a big sword or something there. But do you not just think it's a bit Phoenix Wright? You just think he's shouting, objection!
Nah, he's got Menasor in a headlock.
Oh, yeah, he could do, or yeah, he could be the Billy Edwards of the Transformer world.
Maybe he's just holding a giant double bass. That's not pointing, that's just flourishing after he's finished.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
Right. We start off with Prowl. Now, Prowl took his combined form of Devastator out to prove a point last issue and was summarily beaten. There's little time for subtlety after that, and much of this issue is built around a conversation between him and his former leader, Optimus. That wall of red energy is not the only thing that seems to separate them at the moment. And we start with them, with Optimus defending Starscream and his actions, seeing the good that he is doing, being honest, not being sarcastic, and apparently unable to grasp the concepts that Prowl is trying to convey to him. The idea of someone maneuvering for power, assembling a power base. Prowl is attacking what Starscream is helping to create, as opposed to what is he specifically doing right now. It's an empire led by one person. It doesn't matter if that person is Starscream or not, Prowl argues. Some Cybertronian will be in charge. And we'll screw it up, because that's what we do. There is a war coming, Prime. One nobody's going to win. Very quickly, because I know this could go on for a while, but Andy, is Prowl right?
Yeah, it is. That's the thing, is you can't argue with Prowl's take on it based on precedent based established in the Transformers. But ultimately, probably the best would be an Autobot Decepticon war again for the universe, because while they were sort of invading and the like, it can be relatively contained, and we're kind of seeing just now that they're obviously, whatever resources that they've had are a fraction of what they had before in the past.
Yeah.
So it's something that could easily be contained by the other sort of spacefaring powers. But yeah, history repeats itself. They wanted rid of Optimus Prime because he was a symbol of the war, and they elected someone else who was also a symbol of the war, albeit slightly less. It's an entire race with no agency because it's been locked into a pattern of war for so long that there is still a chain of command. And even the nails have been dragged into that. They haven't been the political force since, obviously, Metalhawk got dead and then back to life, then dead again. So yeah, Prowl's bang on. You don't like him, but he's spot on. He's exactly right.
Tricky, you agree?
Prowl's not right, but he's not wrong. And there's an important distinction to make there. Prime and Prowl's relationship has been heading south ever since Bombshell, basically.
Yeah.
The entire time they were on Earth, Prime was nominally in charge, and Prowl was just not heeding anything he said and was just doing his own thing. And that's ultimately led them here. You've got two people who want the same thing, but one of them has hope and the other one is not given up. But, well, he kind of has given up, because he kind of, as Andy says, he believes isolation is the only way forward. Whereas Prime still thinks it can be redeemed and the race still has something to give the universe.
Mm.
Ultimately, it's endlessly fascinating. The two people are separated by such a gulf. And when they've been so close for so many years, I mean, you're literally talking about somebody who's Prime's right hand for so very, very long, who's seen everything. He's protected Prime from things he didn't want to know. And ultimately, that's led them to here.
This is why I'm going to come back to you on both of these, because this is the issue where they get a lot of this stuff out in the open. Yeah. The other stuff is dramatic, ladies and gents. Don't worry, there's a lot of other stuff in this issue. There's a lot of action, but it's the conversation that people have been waiting for, really. You know, I know that there was always the fight that was going to happen where they settled their differences with fists. Hurrah! But the fact is that in the modern age of Transformers, a lot of the most dramatic stuff is through a speech, a confession, an admission. That's what we're getting here. After that small preamble with those two, we jump onto the title page, You, Me, and the Universe, and we got an image of Starscream's victorious forces and a grateful local resident. Starscream brushing off Windblade's digs with ease. Honestly, he's like Boris Johnson with the press here. He's capable of doing so much, but uses a guile which you can't quantify to just slide round it. We have Page of Screamer constantly gloating and not realizing that Rat Trap has been having issues. A very, very telling little panel as well of Rat Trap looking at Starscream, wondering, look, what the hell are you going on about? And he's not alone as well. You know, it's almost off to the side. You've got Flamefeather, who isn't feeling chipper. You've got Waspinator, who, well, let's face it, it's Waspinator. But at the same time as they are depressed about what is going on, they've also made a friend, a resident. It's showing that the Decepticons are actually portraying a positive reaction in a resident, which again is one of the developments that you never thought you'd see coming when this war ended. But we jump back to this Prime and Prowl dynamic. The latter is finally trying to explain the situation, the things that have been going on in his head that has led both of these bots to where they are now. Well, he's trying to. And Prime offers an olive branch. It's a really simple statement. Old friend, let me understand. And so Prowl starts sketching it out. It's like he's explaining it to a child. Literally, he's sketching it with his finger on the energy field of his prison cell, which almost looks as though he's melting the end of it as he does it. He's trying to impress on Prime how Starscream is playing the Combiner game. And Prime asks if it hurts Prowl to touch the field. And Prowl, I don't know, gents, he looks kind of relieved that he's just able to finally have this chat. There seems to be like an element of relief or just grim determination that he wants to do this now.
Pretty much since he's been sort of part of the Constructicons as Devastator, there's an element of control that's been sorely lacking from Prowl. Even when he's been sort of doing the schemes and the plans, they've always been coming away from him because of other concerns.
Yeah.
So he's kind of, I'm here, it's my show now, sit back and just watch me tell my tale. And it's a little bit of him asserting a sense of control again, so probably feeling a bit more relaxed and comfortable than he's been in some time.
It's got nothing to do with the fact that his Nick Fury cosplay is going down really well.
Yeah, but the one optic he does have is now blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Given the end of the previous, the last last Transformers, it was red. Does that mean something? I don't. The problem with James and John is that you look at these panels and you're looking for the little breadcrumbs that are supposed to lead you somewhere, and they're not always there.
Well, we've speculated for months that the reviews as the Gestalt personality has been polluting and affecting Prowl.
Yeah.
Which we kind of saw. That point was he's finally giving in, surrendering to it. Now, obviously, he's back. He's separated from it. So, what the long-term effects of that will be remain to be seen, if there are any.
Sure.
Because again, there's also the thing is how quickly the Gestalts adapt to a new limb.
The one thing that you gents both mentioned as well was we were talking about the form of various combiners. A naturally occurring one in Superion.
Yeah.
You've got Menasor, which was kind of bolted together. And then you've got Prowls. And Prowls is the only one where you've seen somebody have a nasty knock-on effect to being part of a Gestalt. It would be nice to find out at some point what the writers actually view as the different forms of combiners and what are the individual personalities and results that come of being put into these things. Some willingly, some unwillingly, and some seemingly just flowing in. And remember as well, all the while, you have a Decepticon population which has already been forced into one of these things already.
Yeah. There's some really nasty allegories if you really want to dig into it, but I really don't think that's what the intent is.
Yes.
No.
Thanks, kiddies. You can come back to the podcast now. It's safe.
By the way, it's nice to see that Prowl's a credible artist.
He's not bad.
He's got some good proportion going on.
Yeah.
Speaking of credible artists as well, Olivier's art style, it's noticeably brighter and cleaner and sharper. Maybe this is just me, but there are bits when it just feels, there are one or two pages where it's more his usual style, but there are also a lot of panels where it's very much cleaner. And whereas Livio is let's face it, never afraid to draw a line by hand when, say, someone like Casey would just use ruler all the way. Here, there's a lot of sharp edges and defining, should I say, in the characters. I don't know, Andy, did you pick up on that, or is that just me?
I think it's just more some of the colour choices rather than I've not noticed any major distinction in terms of his lineup, which I love. And please, can we get Regeneration 2 and let Livio draw it? Nick on covers. Thank you, IDW. I'll keep demanding it, and one day I'll get it.
The next 100 issues.
Yeah, not 100. This goes on until one or all of creative team die. It's not an unreasonable sense of entitlement, and probably not the worst sentiment expressed by an entitled Transformers fanboy, to be fair. No, I think it's the colour palette in this issue a lot. Again, because you've got quite the bold reds with the prison cell, obviously contrasting, and I think it makes the scenes elsewhere pop a little bit more. Again, it's more that I think the colour palette and overall tone, because again, so the previous issue that he was doing, not Windblade, but Transformers, they had obviously the rather crazy dream explosions and fire effects. So it's a little bit more obscuring of the art, albeit deliberately to get the effect across. So
true. So we jump back to this space bridge chamber on Cybertron, and Starscream has returned. His talk becoming incredibly politically positive in the presence of Wheeljack. The Seeker is pushing the scientists to accelerate contact with other colonies under the guise of more salvation. Pretty much done there, and we're back to Prime and Prowl again. We seem, even the writer here, they seem keen to keep us back to Prime and Prowl for little beats, but not too long. And Prowl reveals that the Combiner team members view their linked mode as their normal mode. Now again, that might just be the Constructicons, but they've famously been together for a long time. It gives us a hint as well of the effect that his exposure to the Constructicons, Andy, as you said as well, you know, they see this as being normal. So he maybe has this pull now to being in that mode all the time.
yeah.
But he also reveals at this point that Starscream probably has plans for Devastator. Superion and Defensor might be powerful, but Prowl believes that at the end of the day, when it comes to it, they'd side with Prime if there was ever an issue. In Devastator, Screamer has a potential ally, and he needs to make the most of it. And Prowl probably already knows what's coming next, because if he's out of the fight, if he's in his own cell, who's going to replace him?
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, Screamer already has an ally, and somebody who maybe doesn't like him, but certainly believes in him. And with that, we jump over to Starscream's secret prison, where he leads his gang, including Scoop. And passing Sandstorm, who's very, very clearly Sandstorm in this issue, we arrive at the Constructicon cell. After informing them that Prowl is consigned to the past, he turns to his follower Scoop. I've been meaning to tell you, I don't think orange is really your colour. And there's a beautiful, beautiful little expression from Starscream. It is Smug McSmug. As you leave that, as you realise that Screamer is putting one person that he can trust into a combiner to try and gain some control, it might also inform you as to some of the other reasons why we have certain toys in certain toy lines. But we move from there to the new oil house. And this is for a very small scene of summaries and tie-ups. I'm not saying this in a negative way, it's just a very, very convenient scene for everything that happens in it. The first panel is almost a complete flip on Edward Hawke's oil painting Nighthawks. Check it out. I know Olivier's kind of skirted around homages before, but this is literally a 180 on the characters in that picture. And we also as well have a Bob in the background, which is kind of comical, but it's nice to see him. There's a couple of people in the bar. Ironhide and Mirage are discussing their dreams, and after they share a little laugh at the absurdity of it all, Ironhide finally gets his chance to apologize for his actions in All Hail Megatron. Don't know if you remember at the time, but he tried to apologize then, but in the middle of battle, Mirage pointedly stopped him, let his actions do the talking for him. At this point, Sunstreaker wanders up, Ironhide stating that he didn't notice him, which when you see the first panel, you know that's just a load of rubbish.
No,
And
it's clearly camouflaged in all that yellow.
Yeah.
But let's face it, there is a lot of antagonism, and it kind of gets flushed away a little bit here. Sunstreaker comes up, apologizes for his guilt in his genuine actions that led to Mirage's accusations of treachery in the first place, and, might have just happened to have screwed the Autobots for a large chunk of time and caused the death of countless people. But they get over that. And he says, hey, look, you guys are talking about visions and a shared experience. Well, I had something with a guy called Hunter and Iron, and it didn't end very well. As soon as I read that, I was like, wow, in The Last More Than Meets the Eye, we had a tiny little panel with Hunter in it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if James kind of put that in to kind of help tie readers in to the concept that they were going to make him a little bit more relevant again. But these guys, these disparate group of people really, have a shared interest. They've bonded with somebody else. And this is not like Rack and Ruin or the Jump Starters, we think. This is just a couple of people sharing memories. And since all these memories seem to hinge on something bad happening, they theorize that maybe this is not a vision that's something that could happen or something that's a nightmare. It might be a vision where somebody is planning to use this as a template for the future. And when all else fails, when you don't know what to do and you're an Autobot, who do you see? Optimus Prime. So they all run off to Daddy. Tricky, what do you think about this scene? Because, at one point I thought it was incredibly lazy that they all kind of met up and went, let's be friends, let's go off. But it does work on a bunch of levels, and it's nice that John is, let's face it, making more of All the Hell Megatron relevant again.
Yeah, he's making lemonade here, isn't he? It's nice to see them paying back to older stuff.
Yeah.
These beings, time means different things to them. For us, it's years ago, this stuff. We've kind of passed it by or whatever. It's last week to them. They live for eons. So for all this to be kind of forgiven and forgotten and swept under the carpet as easily as it is here, it felt a little simple.
Mm.
Especially, I can kind of understand Mirage forgiving Ironhide. But when Sunstreaker just kind of like swaggers over and says, hey guys, you remember that was me? Yeah, I was the guy. Yeah. Trailer, yeah? No? Everyone okay? Cool. Okay. Let's go see Prime because, we're going to do stuff with him. Here we are. It's giving them a group history, and it's alerting the readers that, hey, these guys are not just people who've met in a bar right now. They've got a joint history. They've got a shared experience that could be used for something else, maybe in a couple of panels. The real moment for me was the previous page where you see Scoop coming down the steps with Starscream. Because when Scoop's kind of talking at Starscream and says, and that's me, I don't even like you. And Starscream's response is, who does? At that point, you kind of realise what his plan is.
Mm.
You put it together because, hey, Scoop's a construction vehicle, hang about. And it suddenly makes sense because this is his second attempt at doing this. Because he's experimented with Blackjack.
Yep.
And he's seen that that's successful. You can put an agent in there and control what the Gestalt will do. So let's put in there a true believer, somebody who's so devoted to me that he will steal the Enigma of Combination on a different planet and bring it back to me. And yeah, Prowl's absolutely 100% right. He's created this controllable combiner who is his in his pocket, no matter what happens with Prime. Devastated with Starscreams.
Andy, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it's again, it's nice to not take the fact that the readers there's an awful lot of readers that have kind of jumped on at various points. A lot of the stuff from ongoing they will have thankfully missed. Places, if I'm being brutally honest. But it's nice again, it's on first reading, you could look at it as potentially it's a little bit, it's neat, we're tying things up in a bow. But again, it's just as Tricky touched on, they've lived for millions and millions of years, so events of what we would consider a serious betrayal that happened a couple of years ago, it's like an eye blink to them. It's the passage of time for them is obviously a different piece for that. But again, we kind of touched on it. We knew right away when it's like, it's not a vision, it's a shared mental space. It's nice to see that they've relatively quickly put the pieces together, because it's not taking them. It's not a case of I've got a vision, I've got a vision, I've got a vision. It's not the whole I had this, I had that. It's like this is just stuff. We're not mystical creatures. We're robots, for God's sake. Obviously, so it's quite nice and to the point. So no fanning around, which has been the difference between, I think, Combiner Wars and Dark Cybertron is Dark Cybertron did take a while to get going. Whereas this has been very pacey from the start. Again, which I think the early chapter suffered a little bit because there was let's get our ducks in a row very, very quickly as conveniently as possible. So, which as we're reading more of it, we can read chunks of it, it stands up. I agree, Starscream's got his model of control, but again, will that last long term, or is it, again, it's Starscream's short term thinking? Because Prowl touches on it, the combined mode is the native mode, and he's almost hinting there that it's hard to be separate. He stopped short of being saying he's not in control, which is what is the words he wanted to say desperately was, I wasn't in charge of it entirely.
Yeah.
And will this new personality absorbed it have some effect? We've seen it has an impact, albeit in the short term. Longer term, will that be the case, or will that personality just be sucked into the Gestalt mind? And at that point, again, Starscream's probably lost the Constructicons because they've got no love for him. But Starscream, again, he has no clearly defined end goal. He's just like getting over this next hurdle, which is, if I get my combiners, I can get all these people on side. But what's the point? I'll think of that when I've got them on side. And he's going down the same step, as we'll kind of see as this issue goes on. The enigma of combination it's a bit of a MacGuffin. It is a bit like sort of the worst aspects of what the Matrix has been in a lot of Transformers fiction.
Yeah.
Oh look, it's the magic bauble that can do things to help us.
Press reset.
Yeah,
I do think Starscream has got a bigger plan here, though.
Yeah. Oh no, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's ultimately possible. Again, will come down around his ears. His plan is just simply to get. He wants to be seen as the hero to all these various colonies. I brought it all together. But there's no end goal beyond that, and that's why he's gonna. It's why he's losing. He's lost the hearts and minds of his own former soldiers and troops, because they're like, he doesn't care. He's just as bad as sort of the primes when they had the Senate.
Yeah.
If not worse, because he was one of them. He fought against that, and it's just no. I've got a sniff of the trough. I'm in power. Bye bye.
That's true.
Even folk like Ratbat, who was a former senator, had commanded more respect after the war because he stuck with the people he was on side with.
Yeah.
Rather than fawning and trying to get to a position of power. Although you can assume that's probably what Rat Trap would have liked to have done, but arguably had a little bit more sense than Starscream.
Nice. Right. We jump from there and we jump to a single page of dialogue between Wheeljack and Windblade. Jackie admits he doesn't know exactly what to do in terms of contacting the other colonies. He's been charged with this mission to go out and reach out, to grab these colonies, to save them. But he's acutely aware that the Combiners are nothing but trouble. They're destroying everything. It's all going horribly wrong. And he reaches out to Windblade, who is, let's face it, a representative of one of those colonies. And he's asking her, he wants to find out from her what is the best way forward. Be very, very interesting to see. It's a small moment. It doesn't affect the major story, but it'd be interesting to see what these two get up to and whether this will form the basis of maybe Wingblade's ongoing adventures after this. Maybe he's going to be assisting her in whatever she chooses to do.
And maybe every leap will be the leap home.
Oh boy. Back to Prowl and Prime for more heart-to-heart. Because Prime admits that he had Prowl wrong for years. He'd assumed that the constant betrayals Prowl had suffered had led him to become, in his words, an open wound. But Prowl, for all he has seen, all he has done, actually sees those betrayals as the impetus for continuing to strive for the right choice, for the right leaders, not despair because of it. But his underlying message is still, we need to change because Cybertronians cannot be trusted. Now, whether, as you guys mentioned, he's taking feedback as well from other races. Let's face it, the humans don't trust them. The Galactic Council don't trust them. The BlackRock Consortium don't trust them. There's a whole universe of people who look at Cybertronians as a pox because of their war, because of what they've done, because they're an advanced race who is stagnating and cannot move forward and just seems to bring death and misery just because people like reading comics about war and destruction. It's all the reader's fault. But Prowl then says that the one leader who should have had it, the one leader who needed it, and Cybertronians needed him to have it, walked away. The one person that appears to have broken Prowl with a betrayal was Prime himself. Make sense, or am I reading that wrong?
From Prowl's perspective, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a case of he sees himself as, I've done the things and got my hands dirty so you could be the Prime that the planet needed.
And you've walked away from it.
You betrayed me, you walked away. Again, Prowl, as we've kind of talked about, not seeing that, yeah, there is a Cold War, so there is a war of sorts that's been going on, and the rules have changed, and Prime's actually adapted relatively quickly, all things considering, and Prowl still lockstep into his role before. But it's a nice, interesting thing that I could figure out how to make a Phase Sixer.
Yeah.
So where is this Autobot Phase Sixer, which it's a nice throwaway line to suggest that Prowl's done it. But where was it? Has it been deployed? Has it been something that Prime found out and stopped him?
Well, no, because I could figure out. I mean, that was Overlord, wasn't it? I could figure out how to make a Phase Sixer.
But I could take care of Zeta's secret weaponry, which he did. So these are things he's done for Prime. Whether they've made a Phase Sixer or not, again, it's open to interpretation.
True.
But if they've had that discussion, there's some. Again, remember the very rigid rules of engagement they had early on in the war, the protocols from infiltration all the way up. So why didn't the Autobots go down that route? There's a story there to be told, or a fragment of one at the very least. It's interesting to look at. Prowl's the one that, and how did he figure out to make a Phase Sixer? Because by the implications that we've kind of had is, it's not a pleasant position to become a Phase Sixer. It's never stated by the others, but they're not normal by any stretch of the imagination. Either mental like Overlord or whatever happened with Black Shadow.
It's interesting as well, the combination of the text there as well, because I could figure out how to make a Phase Sixer. I could take care of Zeta's secret weaponry. You could read that as well as part of Zeta's secret weaponry contained the secret of how to make a Phase Sixer.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't surprise me. Also, as well, it is, when I see that, I see the conversation. I see Prime going, well, I can't touch that, and probably, well, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you worry about that.
It's like the American politicians, where the candidates have to be squeaky clean. They have
plausible deniability.
Yeah. So you've got your bagman who will go and take care of all the dirty stuff and the other stuff behind the scenes, whilst your candidate stays all squeaky clean.
And the one thing that I remember from seeing Zeta's secret weaponry was there was something that wasn't a million miles away from Prime's trailer. And if if John's working on the assumption that that was used and that is now Prime's trailer, whenever, on the rare occasions that he chooses to load up on it, which I know has been fleeting in IDWverse, but it shows that maybe Prime has utilized some of that. And yeah, it'd be fascinating to see what else is out there. Plus, as well, being an Autobot, I know being a Decepticon phase sixer means that you can automatically, you want to go out there, you want to kill, you want to corrupt, you want to destroy, you want to rule. An Autobot phase sixer will probably end up like Omega, just going, look, I don't really want to fight, I'd rather be a peaceful person, I'm going to go fly off and be with myself now. So
yeah, but isn't Grimlock a phase sixer?
No. It's the thing is that there's dialogue. Just while we're there, I thought I'll bring up the wiki just because it's like there's not. Prowl says in Remembrance Day goes, some Cybertronians are markedly more powerful than others. Optimus, Grimlock, Megatron, Fort Max, and a Good Day. I think those are your once in a generation bots, but they pale in comparison. All of them, they pale when compared with Overlord and Six Shot and Tarn.
Yes, I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's rather telling because I think the closest you could probably ascribe to a phase sixer that we've seen in terms of the Autobot side is probably Omega Supreme. Metroplex is obviously Titans are slightly different there, but Omega's probably the closest we've seen to anything approach. And again, not really been used in active combat a hell of a lot.
You give the Autobots someone that can beat up any Decepticon, and a lot of your threat is suddenly reduced.
Exactly.
So you just keep him out of the way.
Into the cave with the Sunbow Dinobots. Nintendo. Have fun.
I'm just thinking about the G1 issue where they introduced Omega Supreme and he just wrecked all of the enemy forces, and then you just didn't really see him again.
Put him back in the box.
He was there when the Ark shot everybody when Prime had died. Tellingly not actually in Target 2006 when Furman wrote it. Where were you when Galvatron came back?
Yeah, but why spoil all that lovely pink lettering? Anyway, speaking of major forces, how's that for a segue? We're back to Starscream and his new and improved Devastator, now with added scoop. Looking a lot more like he traditionally has. But more importantly as well, Starscream has, as mentioned, put a follower, however reluctant, into the Combiner, which means that Devastator now serves Starscream. They have a brief conversation, and yes, he serves the Chosen One. Which is great. Starscream gets what he wants. He doesn't want somebody that follows a Prime. He doesn't want somebody that follows Decepticon or Autobot. He just wants his personal big bad bot. And Screamer goes on to boast to Rat Trap about what he has accomplished, but Rat Trap has already zipped off. And he goes and breaks Swindle out of his cell and asks him to provide a distraction. And Swindle looks so happy.
It's nice to see the Badgeless here as well.
The what?
The Badgeless, the Starscream's security force.
Yes. Now, when I first saw those, I think in last issue as well, I thought it was Blacklight because it had a very similar face design.
Yeah.
And then I texted Livia and said, really excitedly, you brought back Backlight. To which Livia then texted back and went, no.
Who is this?
See a lot
Stop
of those. It is Random Guard. Yeah, please go away and stop calling my eyes attractive. So, but yeah, it's good to see them pop up.
Yeah.
We then jump, not surprisingly, back to Prowl and Prime again. Well, they're interrupted in this heartbreaking moment as Prowl's cell suddenly gains a balcony view. As the wall crashes in and you see exactly what Swindle was going to provide as a distraction. It's Menasor, back on his feet again, seemingly chipper. And he's going to head for the space bridge. Why? Because that's exactly what Prowl would do. Prowl is back, he's thinking clearer, he's thinking sharper, and it seems that he's got more of his wits about him, which is nice to see. And as Menasor strides off, he's followed by Swindle, leading a practical army of Decepticons. Because as bad as things are on Caminus, they are better than Cybertron for so many Decepticons.
They're just they've been completely ghettoized. They're in a ghetto with absolutely no direction, no hope.
So Menasor gets close to the bridge, but he's tackled by Devastator. I mean, who else is Starscream going to send after him? And the poor old Caminans, who's had enough problems with bots fighting away, suddenly sees two more fly through the space bridge land on a nearby city and start raining punches on each other. And this is where it gets complicated, ladies and gents, because we've now got combiners returning for the second time with changes. So Devastator is now there. So Decepticon Combiner Devastator is there to stop Decepticon Combiner Menasor, and isn't the rampaging Autobot Decepticon Devastator that was there before. Defensor, not surprisingly, doesn't twig that. So greets Devastator with a Perceptor kick to the face, which is the first time I've seen anyone of that size pull off a move that almost balletic. Is it balletic?
Yeah.
Balletic. Yeah, very. Starscream is back in the control base, and he mentions, as you guys did, that he planted Blackjack in the Stunticons for this very reason. He wanted somebody inside the Combiner that he trusted. Someone that would do his bidding. Unfortunately, Blackjack looks as though he's been completely consumed into the Combiner form, and he's not answering. It's not good. So at the Space Bridge controls, Wheeljack and Wingblade have just got over the shock of seeing two Combiners go through when Swindle turns up with a large amount of cons, and it's all going to kick off. Back at Prowl's cell, Prowl now enjoying the view out the window, Sunstreaker, Ironhide, and Mirage rock up, just in time to be joined by another bot, Rat Trap, who's arriving with the enigma of combination for Prowl. And Prime realizes, just a little bit too late, that this has been a setup. I don't know for how long it's been a setup. Guys, I'll ask you in a minute how long you think Prowl's been playing this and whether we always intended to do this, whether we thought it was some sort of salvation. But Rat Trap sets the enigma off, and as the four Autobots morph around their leader, Prowl notes, "You, me, and the universe, Prime, one last time." The Combiners are busy laying into each other. Superior and Menasor actually tumble through another portal due to damage that's going on at the Space Bridge controls, and they land on this new planet. They're joined by Devastator. It looks like more carnage. Then another bot arrives, and everything stops, because the new bot is the combined form of Ironhide, Mirage, Sunstreaker, and Prowl around Optimus Prime. Ultra Prime has arrived, and as the bot states, "It's time I took control." Awful lot there, guys. Tricky, where do you want to start?
I'm going to ask the question that confused me a lot.
Go on.
Right, the bottom of page 27.
Yes.
That's not Caminus, is it?
Let's go through it.
Because it's where you where are we? You see Windblade, in Windblade and Wheeljack basically fighting their way in the control room. You've got explosions going off.
You've got Bob running away.
Yeah, you've got Superior. Yeah, below that.
Yes, that is not Caminus.
No, that is not Caminus. You've got green spear people.
Yes, who look very much like turtles.
They really do.
Yeah, so above the panel with Bob, you can see it looks like, because of the damage that's going on, that a Space Bridge portal appears to form behind Superion, and Menasor pushes him through it.
Yeah, with the volcano in the background. Yeah,
it does kind of. Yeah, it threw me.
Yeah, it's kind of setting up that, oh look, we found another world that we've been on, and it's punted them through to.
The landscape's very weird. It's got that big monolith and what suspiciously looks like the top edge of the large alien spacecraft from Alien and Prometheus, which I wouldn't be surprised since I know that Livio's a fan. And the giant head as well, which is a little bit weird.
You could read what you want into that. You could potentially read Megatron, or if you really wanted Megatronus. Given that all this is based on 13 primes? I'm looking at these humanoid creatures thinking maybe that's Garnak. Well, Garnak himself, or maybe his race. I don't know.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
The thing I got from them was the redesigned Turtles by Michael Zulli back in the 90s, when he did kind of like a not anything to do, a very weird sort of absolutely nothing to do with Pizza or the sort of Turtles we love, but they look kind of like that.
Which is also an IDW property.
Yes, indeed. So as I would be not averse to it's like that somehow being done. Obviously, it isn't because they weren't aliens; they were set in sort of a strange feudal Japan style New York. But nevertheless, just put me in mind of that.
Yep.
Which
The panel we get after this, we seem to get Prowl with two eyes again.
Two
But
eyes.
I'm reading that
Red
as part
eyes.
of exactly, and smiling away there.
I don't know what to read into that one.
I took it as he's now a combiner again. He's whole again.
Yeah.
So he's happy. But the storytelling here goes a little bit awry because as I say, I got very confused here. Because you get not Caminus, you get Prowl, you get Defensor flying through unwanted, unwillingly towards Menasor. Then you get the Constructicons Devastator coming through. And it's all just to get them into this kind of looking over your shoulder at the new reveal.
As for the storytelling, I think that the problem is it's on page 27. Panel 3 is the one that throws it. It needs to be from the other way around, so we actually just see the two of them going into the portal again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And possibly just the staging on the last panel on page 27 is have them maybe still in the air coming out of the portal again.
Yeah, because there is no portal here, is there?
Yeah, well, there is. There's one above it, but in panel 3 it is there because it's at the back of it. It's almost as if we're sort of just to the left of the space bridge.
Oh, yes,
behind it. We're looking behind it, so I can see what it's doing, but it's just it doesn't flow as
read
well. Yeah. Again, just doing a 180 of it and have the same composition, but have them being pushed towards the portal, so you can see that's where they're going into.
Yeah,
would make that read a little bit better. But so,
to be fair, this might be something to do with the watermark as well.
It never helps, and also with Livio's stuff is infamous for the quality. Ladies and gents, we review these on PDF copies. When you get the physical printed copies of Livio's work, he suffers being digitized more than other artists because of his style, because of the layers. And you stick a white watermark on Livio's stuff, and you just lose elements completely.
Yeah.
And it's not a subtle watermark, so
no, it's not.
Nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But going back a step, so we have Rat Trap who delivers the package to Prowl.
Yes.
And the first thing he says is, "Sorry, I'm late, Prowl." Well, kind of. He's got an enigma of combination in his mouth. We'll forgive his bad pronunciation. How did Prowl know that there was going to be 4 people or 3 people with him?
I don't think that was his intention to necessarily have. Right when you guys come, we're going to have a combiner. I think Prowl just wanted to have his hands on it, so he could. Because I think, principally, preference handpick his team.
Yeah.
Whether the implication is, would necessarily Optimus be in it or not? I think yes, just purely because there is still that part of Prowl that recognises no one will follow me. It wouldn't matter whether I was a combiner or not, but Optimus gives him the legitimacy that he doesn't have. Mm-hmm. And we've already seen that the Camions are like, "You're a prime? Maze balls, you're great." So they've automatically got an inbuilt follow and said, "Oh, look, here's a big massive combiner. It's quite clearly a prime. Best thing since sliced bread."
Yeah.
So effectively, from Prowl's point of view, you could see that in the back of his mind, if he's thinking, if I get Prime on board with this, I just walk through a space bridge and we've got the planet on side without firing a single shot. Starscream's gone. You get the feeling that he didn't plan on necessarily the distraction being that there's another combiner on the go. He just wanted that device, the MacGuffin, and wanted out.
Yeah.
So, again, no, I don't think it, because to be fair, I don't think he would have picked many of them. Certainly wouldn't take Ironhide, because Ironhide still defaults that Prime is right. Mm-hmm. Sunstreaker, never really been addressed between the two of them, but he sold them out.
He's damaged goods.
He sold them out ultimately. That's still the thing. It's when the betrayal happened, it has pretty much been that there's only been a couple of them that are really kind of offloaded on Sunstreaker. The rest have kind of been a little bit more philosophical about it, or perhaps there's been these sort of exchanges off panel or between the issues that we've never seen. But realistically, Sunstreaker's got off ridiculously lightly. not really been a lot done to him.
Yep.
And again, Mirage, well, Prowl might. This is sort of, again, the inference from sort of Mirage's character generally is that, yeah, Prowl would probably have him on board, but not necessarily them. But again, it's the resources he's got available for him at the time.
Yeah, he looks pleased as punch to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But one thing as well, are we saying that these guys share memories? Because one thing as well that I'm interested in this is Prowl was damaged increasingly by his time in Devastator.
Yeah.
You could see that. I don't know of another character, please prove me wrong, that has jumped into multiple combiners. And the way that Prowl goes about this, there is an almost fatalistic element. I'm wondering if this will be too much for him.
I think part of it is that we kind of talk again. There's a lot of inference and supposition about what the Gestalt mind is like. But I think Prowl's always subordinated himself to Optimus, even when he's gone off and done his own thing. It's always in the service of what Prime wants or what Prime's goals have been. So I think Prowl's kind of looking at that as, if I'm in this combiner, how much of it is it going to be him that's in charge, and how much is it going to be sort of Prime? And I think it's kind of would he sort of willingly kind of, I'll just go with what he wants. And again, it depends on how they link, because they've not really touched on, as you said, do they share memories, or points of view? Because again, that's the whole point about memory, is it's entirely subjective. We remember it based on our view of everything.
Yeah.
The events are always going to be from 5 very different viewpoints. So, and there's again, there's nothing given away at the end there as to who's in charge. Is it Optimus? Is it Prowl? The hint is Prowl, to be honest, just from the choice that I took control, but it makes a difference to me. Is that shades of Prime? Because again, I'm sure these will be, if not answered next issue, some light will be shed on it.
But you'd imagine that Prowl, who's been through this process before, would adapt quickest to it if it is a struggle in there. If it is a case of, I've seen it fight and I'm going to take it. Or is it just, as you say, there is no control?
The other thing, will it be teamwork? Will it be Prowl actually teaming back up with Optimus? And let's face it, you've got, between the two of them, and we're discounting the other guys I know at the moment, but between the two of them, you have Righteous and you have Justice. And if one is tempered by the other, you end up with quite a decent bot. But if the mix is wrong, then you end up with Zeta Prime.
Yeah.
So it could go both ways.
I believe that's what he calls his fists.
Indeed. And, again, Prowl's gone through, I should say as well, Prowl's gone through this already. Mirage and Ironhide are just having their weird and wonderful dreams. But Sunstreaker, I mean, the poor guy was a body for somebody, and now he's an arm for someone else. The guy's going to have issues. I like the fact as well that they did show you a panel that proved that Bob is not part of this combiner.
I was so annoyed.
It's like, Scarper!
That would have been perfect. He could have been the gun of
that was
something.
Chess piece.
Would have been wonderful.
I like the subtle hint because, now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Decepticons we see leaving the prison or heading towards the space bridge.
Yeah.
I believe that's a prison break.
Yeah.
Because they were arrested in the first issue.
There's some of it's the prison break, but it's also just, I think, the prisoner Decepticons in the street. So I think there'll be a mix of that. Obviously, if they're going to the space bridge now, they're going to end up on the world.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. So.
Planet Decepticon.
And this is it as well. We don't know what's going to happen. We remember as well, at the end of this, I think IDW will want to keep Prime away for a little bit longer, because everything is more interesting when you don't have Prime there.
Well, I think that the direction will be Windblade from the solicits I read is kind of going to be seeing some of the other worlds. So I think that's going to be taking up that strand of things. So.
If this is one of the places where the other colonies went to, it doesn't look as though they're around at the moment. But will this end up being... I wonder if the Decepticons are going to have a home world. I wonder if they're going to get a place that they can call home.
Yeah.
Because at the moment they have nothing. And even Prime realizes that. I mean, considering this is following on from Punishment, which has really brought home to Prime just how bad things have got for the cons. You know, they need something. And at the moment, Starscream isn't going to help them. Prime has to be the one to do it.
Yeah. I think to ask the bigger question, though,
Go on.
how 13 colonies, yeah?
Yeah.
13 primes.
Yeah.
Alpha Trion is a prime. Optimus Prime is a prime. If you read the Covenant of Primus, he is one of the 13.
But we don't have to read that, do we?
You don't have to.
I've been good. I've been good.
I did it for you. You can lean on me. It's fine.
Oh, it's good. Thank God. Turgid bollocks.
Well, I read that very differently. I see that as, oh God, right. I thought about this earlier, and I thought about how I'm going to say this so I don't offend everybody out there. So
go on. It's a viewpoint. That's fine.
Well, right. Okay. I consider the Covenant of Primus as the Bible.
Okay.
As in, it's written by somebody at some point with a point of view.
Yes.
Possibly an unreliable narrator. In this case, Alpha Trion.
The brown crayon himself.
Yeah. So, having read that in fiction in the real world, and that being something that exists within the Transformers universe as well.
Yes.
Can we take what it means literally? Probably not. But we do know that there are 13 beings, primes, whatever, who've gone off there and formed colonies with their Megatitans. So, is this Megatron's world? Is it the Fallen's world? Is it Saul Prime's world? Who knows? But it's got to be something based around that. Either that is Speed Planet, 'cause it's always Speed Planet.
It could be. I mean, this is it. There's enough scope in, I think, every one of these colonies for them to have a different take on: is a prime there? Was a prime there? Is the prime still there? What form did the prime take?
Yeah, or was it just a Megatitan?
Or was it just a Megatitan? And also as well, we've seen various Titans just kind of taken out of action already. A whole load of them.
Sure.
So the fact is that, we don't know what happened to the primes once the Titans were taken.
That would be hilarious if he keeps opening things and it just ends up on the world that I can't remember. It's just going to open it up and he'll find Farmer.
Oh, good grief.
He'll find what Skids was looking at.
Well, you never know. I mean, this is it. At the moment, the story is it's drawing in an awful lot of elements. So we've got the 13, we've got the combiners, we've got Prime's place in the world, we've got this enigma, which ties into other things because it's technically a religious artifact. It is involved in something which affects their species and it's beyond their comprehension. So it'd be fascinating to see where it sort of leaves the Cybertronians. After this, will we go back to politics? Will we go back to the life in Cybertron, which is still incredibly hard, has actually gotten worse since the series started? There's more injustice. Or is John going to be tempted off planet? I know Wingblade is doing a lot of that anyway. So is he going to return to what I really liked about RID when it started, which was just this tension of an inner city before Hasbro started dropping all these toy tie-ins with them?
Interesting to see what direction it takes. I think it'll have to. I think it will just dovetail between Earth and Cybertron. It'll flip flop between the two because there's no scope for it to go out. If you're gonna have Windblade go out into the wild yonder of space, and obviously you've got more than meets the eye off gallivanting around the galaxy.
Yeah.
Too much of a muchness if they're all the same. So you got to kind of try and keep each book having some unique selling point, bit of an identity to it.
True, chaps, because this has been a long one, but just before we go through to the final reviews, I'll start with you, Tricky. What do you think to the artwork of this issue?
I've struggled. I love Livio as a person, and I sometimes struggle with his artwork. There are images in here which I struggle with. He says, going back to it, the Wheeljack at the top of page 17. Drunk Wheeljack, as I start to think about him.
Yeah.
I think Punishment is one of the best things I've ever seen. I absolutely adore it. It works on so many levels. Then I read something like this, and I get confused by parts of it. the detail is all encompassing. It's beautiful that someone takes the time to do this, but occasionally I look at things and it's just, I don't, overwhelming is possibly the term. I mean, I'm looking at the Devastator reveal with the orange leg, which makes it look like everybody's toy they had as a kid. And as a piece of art, it's gorgeous. The detailing here, the dappling, the light effects, everything. But as a comic page, I feel a little overwhelmed. And I feel that way about a lot of it. It's, I know some people really, really don't like his work. I'm not in that camp. But I would find it difficult to read this on a weekly basis. On a monthly basis, okay, but on a weekly basis, it would be too much. I prefer the cleaner lines. The lines at the start that you pointed out, where it's Prime and Prowl in the cells, that for me is perfect. That's exactly how I want this to look. And then when you get to the kind of the more detail, the more battle damage looking stuff, I start to struggle with it.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think?
I love Livio's art because again, it's very great. I do think though the storytelling becomes just so the last sort of couple pages is a little bit confusing. Again, it's obviously it's still on Caminus. It's another part. It's the other side of where the portal is, but it's not clear. So you kind of it detracts a little bit from there. I get what Ricky's saying about sort of the overwhelming detail. I think it's I wouldn't say it's a feeling of Livio's. It's a trend in a lot of comics. Is that I've harped on from day one is storytelling is key. Rendered images, that's for covers and pin-ups.
Yeah.
You need to serve the story first and above all. If I can read the story, then that's my first thing. There's a lot of, again, is why I rag so much on Don Figueroa's work, because the rendering is fantastic in terms of the robots, the designs, but the storytelling is at times absolutely mind-bogglingly poor in terms of the choices. So it makes for a bad reading experience. I can see why people, if they're not used to it, but again, I'm a big fan of 2008 from sort of, I mean, I was reading sort of, at the time Marvel Transformers was going, I'm reading Simon Bisley's fully painted Slaying the Horned God, so this is kind of not a hurdle for me in the slightest, but I can see why it would be to a lot of readers. I'm absolutely one of the people, again, love Livio's work, and his eyes. His eyes are lovely. See, it's not just Adam that obsesses about them, we all do.
We all do.
But it's just, there's a couple of, say, confusing sort of panel choices, but I think problem is it's quite a dense. This is quite a dense issue, probably one of the densest of the lot, because we're effectively we're flip flopping back to a two-hander where we're having to get a lot across. So this has been a crossover that's been at breakneck speed and maybe needed a little bit more panel space. Maybe needed to be a little bit longer to kind of allow some of it to breathe a little bit. Again, it's one of the things. I mean, I love a good dense comic with a lot of reading. It's why I hate decompressed comics. Because most of the time it's just, oh, look, this is very pretty. Yeah, it is, but you're not telling me a story, I'm just looking at pretty pictures. And this is kind of, at times, a little bit cramped, I would say is probably the best way to describe it. And I think that's where the book suffers, because you need some of the scenes didn't quite get the room to breathe. Again, even just the sort of the Ironhide Mirage scene, which is kind of, that's a lot of ground covered in 2 pages.
That is a hell of a lot of ground covered.
And again, it's a case of maybe, again, a larger sort of issue count for the crossover, then a couple of extra pages here and there just to let the story breathe a bit more.
IDW has reduced their page count for their comics.
Yeah, back in line with Marvel. And
do we think that this was something scripted for a longer format and maybe shortened down?
Quite possibly. Again, depending on how, again, not really privy to how long Combiner Wars has been sort of submitted for approval by Hasbro and Co. for that, because obviously that's where IDW will obviously have to have a little bit more lead time in terms of the writing.
Yeah.
Because obviously Hasbro, we like that, we don't like that. But quite possibly, it would make sense, because there are some bits that are, say, and I think the other problem is we're dealing with a book whereby we're having to give certain pages a lot of panel space for not a lot, because you're dealing with combiners, so you've got to show that contrast.
Yeah, like scale. The splash page at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, let's face it, there are a couple of, splash pages throughout this, and then you've got Prime and Prowl, which needs the space to breathe. And I think that conversation the success of that conversation is at the cost of some of the others. And the Sunstreaker Bar one niggles on me. So, I mean, there are many things that scene does, and it's a nice nod. We've had the nod to Spotlight Mirage. We've had the nod now to All Hail Megatron. It might not be the best ending to that particular thing that we ever wanted or a payoff, but at least it's acknowledging it, which is good. Just going back into the art comments that you said as well. Funny enough, before this recording started, we were talking about Dread and ABC Warriors. And one of the things that I actually can understand tricky here is that one of my favorite ABC Warrior stories is the Chronicles of Chaos. Yeah. And I've shown Livio this because when Livio first turned up and was doing his first artwork, I was like, holy crap, this is feeling very, very ABC Warriors. Can you do me a Joe Pineapples, please? But then they did something called the Volgon War afterwards. And that was using photo manipulation and lots of effects and so on and so forth. And just like Tricky, I couldn't read that because there was too much information. It was, as an art style, it was just too intense. And I love my painted style. I like my feel, but I think it's not too intense. It's just my personal art choices. And I can understand why people love Livio and why they hate him. In this issue, a large chunk of this is sharper, cleaner, and brighter.
Yeah.
I think there's, again, because people have said this as an insult. I'm not saying this as fake insult, fake praise, or whatever, but the ruler has come out. It just seems a lot sharper. It seems a lot more on point. There are bits where he slips back into his other style, his traditional style, and it's kind of more jarring for it because you're like, oh, that looks a bit weird, like Wheeljack, as you mentioned. But a lot of this is really extra nice and clean. And I think it's his development of Livio as an artist. I think it's suited him really well because it's a large style. And mostly this issue works in terms of art. But as you guys pointed out, it loses its way at the end. It just seems to be like chunks have been taken out, or let's have one panel serve as three potential panels that tell a particular sequence. And you end up kind of reading back over it going, what exactly happened? So it's great, but it does have its failings.
I think a fight scene is a deceptively tricky thing to choreograph, both in terms of comic writing and in art. Having tried to do most myself on both sides of the scale, and just even through experience of reading. And again, when you're dealing with things where you're changing your scale so often. Again, superhero comics are easy to do because it's a guy who's about 6 foot odds fighting generally another guy who might be maybe 8 foot if he's slightly bigger.
Yeah.
But there's a commonality of scale, and you've always got frames of reference because you're doing it in cities or what have you. So there's an easy visual shorthand to help you with the storytelling. When you're doing robots on an alien world, you lose that little bit, and it's some of the shorthands that your mind's able to very quickly fill in gaps for you aren't there anymore. So you're actually working a little bit harder to read it, which can be a rewarding experience. But if the selection of the shot isn't quite right, makes it more difficult for you to do. And sometimes that's where it takes you out of the story, which I think does happen a little bit towards the end there.
Yeah. One final thing before the scores. Should we read anything into the fact that they've missed a wonderful little in-joke, which was that finally Prowl could have been the right hand for Optimus Prime. They've missed that, but also Prowl isn't holding the gun. And is that a thing, or is that just Livio's kind of I'm going to stick the gun there because it looks better?
So are we saying Sunstreaker's the right arm?
We're saying he's the right arm, yeah.
Yeah.
So Prowl's in shadow, essentially.
Well, remember what they used to call the people with left hand? Sinister.
Yes, they do.
I think it's more probably just to do with, I'm sure Livio's right-handed, and there is a tendency, if you're right-handed, to draw people as right-handed. It's just it's a natural bias for you. You have to fight against it. I know I have to do sometimes. Like just no, put it on the left hand for God's sake. Yeah, but it's a natural bias to how you work.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just looking at the coloration on the last one. I mean, obviously you washed out with the portal behind them.
Yeah.
But there's very little, if any, yellow, and Prowl is very dark.
He is, yeah. It more resembles him. I think the shadow is done for effect.
Well, it's just the light sources right behind Prime
Yeah.
as the portal, so you're going to have that. But no, it's Prowl. So again, I think again you can kind of look at it as there is a nice little commentary in there. Is that for all that Prowl does bad things, it's never him that pulls the trigger. Or sorry, it's very rarely him that pulls the trigger.
God, yeah.
There's always someone else. Again, it's that not even plausible deniability that he sort of took on for Prime, but more just the case of there was always a sense that I just want that done, but I don't want to do it myself. It's either beneath me or it's just there are others better suited for it.
I think out of this as well, I think after this, whatever happens to Prowl, I think his story is going to be done for a while, and I think we're all kind of glad that his story will be done and draw to a resolution. But it would be fascinating to see what Prime does if he has now a full knowledge of exactly everything that Prowl has done. Yes, I mean, admittedly from memory, so it's subjective, but he will still know. He will know all the little vagaries, trickeries, and stuff that he's pulled. And also, as well, Prowl will know stuff from Prime's perspective. So we could get a far more humble Prowl who maybe takes himself out of the picture for a while.
Yeah, but we've got things hanging out there like the Aquitus memory stick.
This could actually drive that forward.
Yeah.
After this, it provides the jumping on point for Prime to go, right, I'm going to go off and maybe sort out some of this stuff on my own.
I'm going to find Impactor and Guzzle.
Indeed. So, gents, what would you give this then? Andrew, what are your thoughts about the writing and your score out of 5?
Again, another really good issue. There was a lot of concern going into this crossover that was it just going to be a bit of a here's the new toys coming by. There's been a little bit of an element of that, but it's a Transformers book. You really can't get away from that too much. But no, I've really enjoyed it. Again, really good. I loved how Prime and Prowl's sort of interaction was chopped up, because I think had you read that as one continuous lump, it would have got a little bit overwrought potentially. Yep. So it's nice to kind of jump it back, keep that parallel narrative going. Again, Starscream continues to just go from short-term goal to short-term goal. His downfall is just a couple of poor choices away. Art, as I say, I love Livio's work, really good. Again, to see a couple of storytelling choices at the end that just kind of make that last little fight scene just not work as effective as good. But again, it's the scale that you're playing about with that does have an impact on that. So I'm not going to be too harsh. So again, I'm quite happy to give this another solid 4. I'm just hoping that the momentum this has continues on past the crossover. So.
Cool. Tricky.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's a 4. If the artwork was less confusing, this would be a 5 for me. I'm really enjoying the storyline. As Andy says, I completely agree. The fear was that it's just going to be people bashing giant combiners against each other for 6 issues as Windblade stands there looking puzzled. Thankfully, it's given us a very interesting think piece. It's John, as ever, pulling on little threads that people have left or forgotten about. It's beautiful, beautiful to see people like Sandstorm.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, if you haven't read Punishment, everybody, go and read Punishment, 'cause it's great. But just to see him there, sitting in a cell, well, why is he there? He's a killer. Sometimes you need a killer. Perfect. Moving on. It's a key issue. It really is. It's given us the one thing that I didn't need out of this, because I didn't need to see the Optimus Maximus, whatever we call him.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that wouldn't be a thing once we saw the toy line. But now we've got here, I can see why we're here. And is there anything that Prime hasn't been? The only thing I can think of he hasn't been is a pretender. I think he's now...
Micromaster.
Yes, yeah, you're right, yeah.
But you do have the Micromaster who was quite clearly designed to be Micromaster Optimus Prime.
the guy's done it all. Yeah.
Target Master.
Didn't he? No, he was supposed to have a Target Master, but he didn't, did he?
Yeah.
He just had IQ, yeah. He was supposed to be all 3, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump starter. He was never a jump starter.
Oh, jump starter.
He's not cool enough to be a
I'll tell you what, that wouldn't just take a kid's eye out, that would break their arm.
Well, for leaving a sparkler mini bottle. No, that actually, seriously, just as a joking aside, having his wee exhaust stacks just
Yeah.
shooting out sparks, that'd be awesome.
Hasbro.
Why don't I have that goddamn toy? None of this homage and Nick Roach design, for sake. Get me an Optimus Prime that shoots sparks. No, damn it!
Some
Sorry,
of
Nick.
the Hasbro legals are going to work. Yeah, I mean, my concern now from this point on is this just, as you said before, Big Daddy Prime come to put the toys back in the box? Because that's not what I want to see. I don't want, hey, Prime's here, yeah, he's essentially a god, let's just do what he says, and whoever he chooses to rule the planet at the end of this, that's what we're going to do. I don't want that. I want conflict. I don't necessarily need resolution at this point. So we'll see where we go. I mean, we get a Windblade next, and it'd be interesting to see what that does, because we're clearly not on Caminus.
Yeah.
So does that just follow Windblade, or does it stick on Caminus? I don't know. We'll be interested to find out. But this was definitely a 4.
Nice.
No, it's interesting because we kind of joked about it at the start of this as well. It's like, oh god, we're going to get combined Optimus Prime. That'll be amazing. And we kind of thought, well, there's enough of them in that we might get the pass on that. We might not see them, but I don't mind it. I hope that it's not just that he's done at the end and that's it, because it'll be interesting to see what the lay of the land is post that. Prowl, I think the story's done in terms of the constant manipulation. It's now kind of out there, or as much as it can be. So there's got to be a change in what Prowl's situation is. Whether he fades in the background or not, I don't know, because I don't think that would work. Purely just because if he goes away and then suddenly comes back, no one's going to trust him at all anyway. And you've got tedious stories of him being misunderstood and trying to do the right thing and getting screwed over.
Yeah,
you can see where that goes. So I think it's important to keep him in the frame, but obviously we'll have a new status quo after this, which will take us hopefully in some interesting directions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What do you think, Adam?
I think for me, it's just an incredibly strong story. You know, I've said before in the last issue that I really liked John's early stuff. I thought it was fantastic. I thought towards the end as well, when Prowl was revealed to be brainwashed, and those issues really had a punch and a weight to them. And then Hasbro kind of screwed it up, and they did. I'm not bashing them for the hell of it, but you know that seems to have derailed a lot of John's plans. And John has done that to allow James to go off and do his own thing, to allow other writers to do their own thing. It's fantastic. And with this one coming up, I was quite pessimistic because even Chaos and Dark Cybertron, a lot of them, they had their various gizmos and they didn't really reveal the plot as such until the last issue. And then it was rushed through. Whereas this has been a really strong paced story, which has developed stuff all the way through. And we've had payoff after payoff. It's good stuff. If anything, this is the issue that I think people are probably not reading because they assume it won't be great, but it's actually kicking all sorts of butt. And yeah, this Ultra Prime thing, I have not been investing in the toys. So I was vaguely aware that I think Sunstreaker might be a combiner limb, and that Prime was going to be the center of something. I honestly didn't know about the other elements around this. So I maybe had the luxury of not knowing when those guys got together, oh, this is going to be who Ultra Prime is.
Okay.
For other people who did know, maybe it wasn't so much of a surprise, or maybe it smacked of more convenience. But I really liked when Prowl went, right, we're off to the races. Because I actually got that excitement. It was like, I'm looking forward to seeing this. And when Prime turns up at the end, yeah, looks good. But I completely share your fears, Tricky. I don't want this to be, I shall punch you down and you shall behave and we'll all go back. But I don't think John's going to do that. If anything, the possibilities for leaving this in a precarious balance with all sorts of feuds going on is far too tempting for John to ignore. And, you know, against that, like, one of the things I've been reading as well is, why are we not getting more Decepticons? Why is the onus on the Autobots? You know, we've missed Decepticons for ages, and there's a huge list of ones that have not been updated. At the moment, the Autobots have never looked more interesting because they're all so fractured. they're also damaged. And because they're Autobots, they show their feelings more than the cons, who probably deleted any empathic reactions they had eons ago. So yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes from here. But a lot will rest on how Barber ends this. And does he try and tie it up in a neat bow? It's a 4 from me. It's a really strong issue. I say a couple of art niggles from me, but I thought Olivier's art was really, really good. And he is doing a fantastic job of handling these big events. And yeah, can't wait to see what happens next.
Well, I think that whatever happens, Prime's not going to want to stay on Caminus.
No.
And the minute he decides to leave, the Mistress of the Flame, she's going to throw a hissy fit of epic proportions. We've got a Prime and he's turning his back on us.
Yeah.
I think that there's scope in me, even just for him not staying there. Well, we've been rescued by a Prime, and now he's leaving us to do whatever Prime needs to do post this event.
Unless, of course, that he ties that into something to do with the Matrix or something to do with the other, basically a religious quest.
Yeah.
Which, with Prime, he'd actually get something done on it.
Yeah. Matrix Quest 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Well, the Matrix question has never been answered.
No.
Because he clearly did something pyrotechnic-y there, and he only had half a Matrix.
Did he do it, or was it just the fact? Again, we kind of speculated out, like in the Marvel thing, you had the Matrix and the Matrix Flame on Cybertron. Yeah. Was the fact that he just had the shell of it reacted with her? Is there?
That could be it.
It shone through the power of her belief.
Yeah.
What is the Matrix in IDW really? It's
mystical bump.
Yeah, but again, the Marvel one just kind of was rigidly defined initially. Was that the computer program that obviously allowed them to procreate, and then became obviously the essence of Primus. And this, so far, we just know it's a ball of energy in a wee thing that turns out to be a map in one half of it. All right, okay, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but it isn't really. All we've had is kind of the little bits in the flashback, so it's never really been given. Everything we've heard about it is from narrators that could ostensibly be unreliable. I mean, there's great energy. Look at Prime said when he first took it on, it hurt him, and and Rodimus says it was joyous. So,
well, it's a bauble he found in a basement, which might not be actual beneficial.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's still, what is it? No idea. It's still kind of, so is it gone with him unleashing it? Probably not. If it's just energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It's just changed.
Yeah. Also, as well, the small fact of we've got a Matrix holder.
Yeah.
If not, if he hasn't got both of them, at least he's got the capacity, and he has shown that there's some sort of magic doohickey going on. So what happens now with Ultra Prime? Does he have the same abilities?
He's got a huge Matrix.
He's got a huge Matrix. It's the size of a small mini Metro.
It's the size of a hot rod.
It is Hot Rod. He just pops out, surprise! So, anyway, gents, thank you very much for this conversation as much as a review. I just like kicking back and listening to you guys talk. That's great.
Well, at least someone does.
Guys, we haven't done this in a while. Tell us where you can find us, Mr. Turnbull.
Currently, mostly for the most part, Twitter at Andrew D. Turnbull. I'm on Facebook. I am on various message boards, but not really a huge amount at the moment because I'm labouring away on sorting out the final Auto Assembly comic, albeit more in an editorial writing capacity this time round. Currently labouring on my own comic on sale at Glasgow Comic Con in July. Hopefully, if I can finish it. Cool. Doing so many pages with not a robot in sight. I'll tell you a lie. Some of them I've just started to get some robots today. Know what I'm doing. About bloody time.
Since we are on the build-up, I forget we are closer to AA than we think.
Yeah.
So, is there any feedback yet from the wonderful people at Toy Fu?
At the moment, let me have a little look. Is Nick is in the process of doing a little video to show, so I will just sort of head him off the pass a little bit. So for those that don't know, Toy Fu is an enterprise done by young Nick Davidson, aka KFC, or Toy Fu 2012 on Twitter, because he keeps refusing to update to 2014 on his name. I'll sort him out one day. Basically, whereby you can go and buy lots and lots of Transformers at very, very competitive prices. Sometimes too competitive, and occasionally we get asked, go and raise your prices, you're making the rest of us look bad.
Yes.
Whereby the money goes all the profits go to Mary's Meals, which is a charity that provides meals for school children in the developing parts of the third world, because arguably a lot of them don't get fed properly. So if they're going to school and they're getting a good meal, it's encouraging them to learn as well, taking them away from obviously having to work elsewhere potentially to get food. So it's all a good cause.
Mhm.
Again, there's many toys and many a lot of kind people donate stuff. Good self, Adam, there with your Scorponok a couple of years back, which was
God, yeah.
well received again.
The more importantly, the soap.
Yes, indeed, I enjoyed it as well.
I saw that, by the way. I saw that going for a fortune on eBay the other day.
I just looked at it and just laughed and went, okay, I smelt like Optimus Prime smells in my head. So basically, we'll be there at assembly for the last hurrah. So come along and spend your wares. If you do have any unwanted Transformers that you don't, or you don't want the hassle with eBay, feel free to get in touch with us, because we'll more than happily take them off your hands for donations, and we'll stick them in again. One caveat is I don't want to sound like a dick, because obviously we're asking people to give us stuff for free, but don't give us broke stuff, ideally, because obviously we are trying to raise money for a decent cause. But if you want to hit me up on Twitter, I am there, or Nick can say Toy Through 2012, and we can sort you out. I'll obviously give you either if you want to bring it down on the day, or if you want, you can we do have a couple of toy food distribution hubs, i.e. Nick's gaff and my gaff at the moment. And as I say, all donations are greatly received. There is a website that should be up at some point when I can finish doing things in addition to my to-do list, which should be like a big scroll that I just put out, because it just seems to get bigger and bigger. But grab us there, or indeed on Facebook. I'm obviously on the AA Facebook groups and various things, so hit me up there. Nick's also on Facebook and all these as well, so we will get in touch with you. I've got a couple of things I need to sort out as well for the tat. I don't know what tat device will be this year, but no, again, one of the first years when Derek J. Wyatt came to it, and between Nick and Mr. Kiernan, there was 11 overlords on a table in various stages of completeness.
And I still didn't buy one, and it's, as you can tell, it's haunted me for years afterwards. But the one thing I will say that folks out there is that because people are downsizing, a lot of people, they don't want to go to eBay. And in fact, the hassle of getting rid of their collection, for sometimes, because there are some expensive items. There are also items as well that they just know that even if they put it out there, they are going to get so much hassle to sell it. They just want to get rid of it. There is no better home than Toy-Fu, as long as it's not busted, because it's going to a good cause. And when you see Nick's face light up when you give him either an old Transformer or a beautiful piece of tat that he's never seen before, it is angelic.
Oh, again, it's one of these things that, all joking aside, I'm a bit of an asshole for the most part. I'm quite willing to accept that. But Nick is genuinely one of the nicest people you will actually encounter.
Yeah.
You will often see at a event, basically with a can of Iron Brew in one hand and a bag full of money. I really shouldn't be telling you that in case somebody try to pick on him, because he's not the biggest chap. Leave him alone. That money's for a good cause. But no, Nick is generally a case of again, I've mentioned this story before. It was the first year we met Nick, sort of travelled to a convention with him. We were all just kind of talking, and he just sort of, out of the blue just mentions just before we went, he goes, "I'm a little bit late, guys. I just had to go and donate some money at the church. I gave him a couple of £100 because I'm going to be spending that on toys." And we kind of all looked at him and just went, "What? Are you mad? That's money you could have spent on more toys." And again, it wasn't just Nick sort of trying to make anyone feel bad or just kind of say it. It's just like, no, it was just the right thing to do for him. So he is a good egg. Nice. God knows why he's mates with me, to be honest. There you go. He must have poor judgment somewhere along the line. Not everyone's perfect.
Right, so after speaking about one of the most angelic beings, we have Tricky. Follow that. Where can we find you?
You see, Tricky?
Andy gets to hang around with Nick. You get to hang around with Gruffy.
I do, yeah. Well, at AA, you can find me under Toy-Fu's table digging through the boxes of broken stuff.
Yeah.
Because I love that stuff. Oh, I love throwing money at Nick and taking something away that is completely and utterly tat. But in real life, you can find me at Tricky1414 on Twitter. I know a podcast with Stu Murray, Dark Ages, on the Old Oil House Network called Welcome to Kimia, where bad things happen to good things. It's a news show over there, so come along, give us a listen, and then go away, as that seems to be what people do.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's me. I'm quite concise.
Wow.
So I ramble then? Was that it?
Talking about
Fellow
good causes and nice people.
So, in terms of yourself, you can find us on the regular Underbase feed. You can also find us on YouTube now, where we are releasing some of our shows. We're also going to release some of our previous shows going back a bit, just so that people can use that format, because we're aware that some people like listening to stuff on YouTube rather than downloading it from a podcast. So we've got that out there. So if you do want anything put up on YouTube, give us a shout. And the only other thing I'll add to that is that Toyfu can take all the expensive stuff and they can sell it and make money. That's good. And Tricky can have all the broken and battered stuff because he can utilize that, and that's brilliant. If you get any Burger King Transformer heads, they're mine.
I shall let Nick know.
I'm missing 3. No, missing 2 now. So, but if there are any more ratchets, I will always take them because I'd like to make a bandolier out of those guys. So.
I do like the judging ratchet. Where is he?
So, with that said done, gents, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
To you at home, I hope you've enjoyed our extended chat, and hopefully you will hear from us again on another edition of the Underbase. Until then, take care. Goodbye.
Burger King Optimus.
It's actually quite unnerving, isn't it?